Jacqualine Seckley, what do you do? Where do you do it and why?
So hi Roma, thank you so much for inviting me onto the show today. So it's really lovely to talk to you. I have recently started this year in April a new company called HealthHubble, and essentially we are a really new platform to help people find health and wellness services throughout the UK. And we just want to make it easier really to find those businesses that can help you, whether it's a podiatrist or a counsellor or a physiotherapist or an online doctor, and we want to bring all of that information together in one place. At the moment, we've got just under 20,000 businesses listed that we've listed or businesses have listed themselves. We started when we launched in April with just 75. So we're growing really, really quickly. And over the next couple of months and next year, there will be tens of thousands of businesses that you will be able to find that can help you with some of the concerns, whether it's a doctor or a physiotherapist.
People are so concerned now about their health, aren't they?
Health has obviously always been important, but I think there's a real spotlight on health at the moment with COVID, and it's really influenced what we have done. So our initial plan was to launch, throughout the summer, and actually we weren't necessarily ready to launch in April when we did, but we made a really quick decision to essentially just turn on our website. So it wasn't fully developed, but we launched with 75 businesses, which were doctors and physios and counsellors that people could find during lockdown, and where they could get a video consultation to help them at a time of real difficulty where access was a real problem for so many people. And that's why we launched. And now we're going back to our original plan of actually covering the whole of health and wellness. So there are businesses that are obviously not just online, but high street physiotherapists or podiatrists and lots of counsellors, and a huge range of businesses to help people.
Your partner is Steve Crow, isn't he?
Yes. We've been together for 12 years. We've got a 10-year-old and a 3-year-old, and he has a business that's really similar to HealthHubble. So essentially, I've stolen his plan. So he has a business that many people in the UK won't have heard of. I think only 5% of their businesses within the UK. They're an international business. They're a leader within their field, and they help people connect to businesses within the super yachting industry. So really niche, but throughout the world, they have been incredibly successful. They've previously won the Queen's Award for International Trade. And over the years, I've been looking at the business that Steve has very successfully developed, and actually realising that it would be great to bring that type of platform to healthcare within the UK. And so that's what we've done. So it's really exciting to actually be able to marry together my experience within healthcare with the business model that Steve has.
Often people say, well, if you really just go to your doctor, don't you? But it's not that simple, is it?
I think it's not that simple, and I think that there are so many occasions when it may well be that there is another healthcare provider who has a huge wealth of experience and knowledge within a very specific area. For example, a podiatrist would be able to help you in a very different way to seeing your GP for some of the problems that you have with your feet. I think that there are so many different healthcare providers who can help people essentially, and actually it's not necessarily your GP that is the right person to see for that problem. It's very complex, and there are obviously so many problems for whom your GP is most certainly the first person that you should see, definitely. One of the most frequently used areas of our platform is kind of within musculoskeletal services. So, people looking for physiotherapists, osteopath, chiropractors, but also people looking for counsellors, or whether it's for hypnotherapy, even acupuncture and a range of complementary therapies as well. And I think the interest is growing, and I think people want to find more solutions really. And that's what we can do. We're bringing that together. But we're also really lucky to have a growing community of experts from a range of fields. So whether it's a hypnotherapist or a psychotherapist or a physiotherapist, even a pharmacist, writing really interesting and useful articles to help people with some of the problems that they have, whether it's advice on giving up smoking, or how to stay fit during lockdown, and even how to stay fit and healthy as an older person as well. So it's really good to get advice from a physiotherapist who's a specialist with older people who can help. We don't make the referrals ourselves. We kind of give people that information about how they can contact people, so they can write direct messages through the website to those providers. A specialist may well refer on from there. You know, we know that lots of the professions actually, especially within the private sector, there are lots of polyclinics, for example. So you may have a clinic that has an osteopath and an acupuncturist, as well as a counsellor, all working within one healthcare centre out in the community. And I guess they do refer within their teams, definitely. But also, all healthcare providers would refer back to the NHS and to GPs as well if they're concerned about someone. Certainly, when I was working in emergency medicine, it wouldn't be uncommon to have somebody sent out by another specialist who'd seen them privately within the community and said, well, actually, no, this is more of an emergency. You need to go to the emergency department, or you need to go to see your GP.
Tell us about how you became interested in health. Is it something that has always interested you? Are you from a medical family?
So my interest as a teenager and a young adult was actually with psychology. So my father was a psychotherapist, and other members in my family had worked in mental health. And I actually went to university to study psychology. Whilst taking a year out, my mum had been unwell and she had died. I took a year out after that. I actually started working as a healthcare assistant on mental health units. And I absolutely loved working in that environment with that patient group. So I actually went to medical school then, after doing psychology, to become a psychiatrist. So I've been on a real journey through a number of different specialties. It definitely has been a journey as opposed to kind of having a clear destination of where I want to be. So lots of things are kind of added into my experience to bring me to where I am, I suppose.
And I know you've been a doctor in the National Health Service for 15 years. What kind of department did you work in there?
During training, working in lots of different specialties, general medicine or short periods in surgery or anaesthetics, but I spent the majority of my time specialising in emergency medicine, so working in A&E, seeing a real range of problems. Really absolutely fascinating, fantastic work, and for the time that I was there I absolutely loved it. But there comes a point in your life when you reappraise what you're doing, and you start to kind of think, well, actually there are other things that I've wanted to do, and now's the right time to make those changes. So I decided to start HealthHubble, which is just the best thing that I've done. Family life being a huge factor. I've got two daughters. One is 10 and my youngest is 3. She had been unwell as a baby and actually had a cardiac arrest when she was 5 months old, and I had to resuscitate her. After I'd returned to work, I always found that quite difficult, kind of leaving her, having long periods of not seeing her. When you're working night shifts or working weekends, you can go reasonable periods without spending really good quality time with your children. And so towards the end of that first year after returning to work, I actually decided that I wanted to be able to focus on quality of life and time with my family. And I guess having always wanted to start HealthHubble as well, it just became apparent that actually this is what I should be doing. This is going to be the right thing for our family. It means Steve and I work together as well, which is fantastic. And I get to see the children a lot more often. We've got huge ambitions for HealthHubble. I mean, our sister company, Yachting Pages, have been, very, very successful, and they're leaders within their field. They've previously won the Queen's Award for International Trade. And so we've got huge ambitions for HealthHubble in that respect, definitely, yes.
I think what's really interesting about what you're saying is, as a parent and as somebody who has had a normal life, as it were, you've known bereavement, you've known ill health in your own family, and it gives you more empathy, I would imagine.
I think it does. I think that all the way through medical school and through my time working as a doctor, I lost my parents when I was relatively young. So my dad died when I was 18, my mum died when I was 21. So that was before I started med school. So that experience does help you grow as an individual, but empathy is so important within healthcare. And I guess that I was always able to relate to patients and the relatives that I was looking after and speaking to when they're in really difficult times. I really understood how they could be feeling, really. And I think that obviously did have an impact on my career and my ability to kind of look after my patients. And you're making sure that they were always, the most important thing really was making sure that I could do the best job for patients. Just knowing how hard it is really when someone's unwell or when someone dies.
And as well as appreciating the patient and the family's point of view, what kind of application does it take to keep a business like yours buoyant?
So obviously completely different to working within the NHS. And I think, obviously times are really difficult at the moment. I think the most important thing for any business within 2020 is being really agile, being able to adapt. So for our business, we had a really clear plan of how we were going to develop the platform and the business and what the website was going to look like when we launched. And then when COVID happened, we very quickly appraised the situation and said, right, actually, these are our priorities. This is what we need to do. And literally within 2 weeks, we launched the website, even though it was many, many months early. And I think that being really agile is really important, certainly at times like this. As a company, things that are really important to us is trust. We're working to connect people to health and wellness services, and so it's really important that they can, trust the information that they're reading. So we do have almost 20,000 businesses listed, but actually each one of those has been hand verified. So a business can come and list with us, but actually we will verify a business. We will look for evidence of the regulatory, statutory and voluntary regulation. And because we want to know that the businesses listed with us are trusted services. And so every business is approved and verified. And that is really, really important.
People that are worried about other members of their family, children, parents, I'm thinking of old people, I'm thinking of spouses, people who have obviously put on weight, lost their fitness, are more mentally anxious. Are they the kind of people you can help, Jacqualine?
We are really fortunate. I mentioned already that we've got a growing community of experts who are writing really fantastic advice and self-help tips for people. So we know we have a nutritionist called Olivia Palmer, and we've got a psychotherapist called Julia Martinez, and a huge number of people who are writing some really fantastic content and articles to help people with anxiety or with weight loss as well, with keeping fit. We have had a really experienced personal trainer called Andrew Dorey who's written content for us as well. And so, yes, please do read some of our content and share it with relatives. There were so many people, especially just before children went back to school as well, there were a lot of children who were really anxious and a lot of parents really concerned about them as well. And we had a specialist psychologist who wrote some fantastic tips on how to help your children return to school. And so, yeah, absolutely. Please do read our content, have a look, go onto the website, look at the articles, and there's always something new popping up as well. And it may well be that you've got some knee pain and you're at that age where you're thinking, well, should I have a knee replacement? And again, we've got an article that's been written to us by a specialist knee surgeon on some knee replacements. So please do absolutely have a look and share it with your relatives, send it to them. So yeah, definitely pop it in a WhatsApp and send the article to them.
I must admit, when I looked on your website and I saw the turquoise swimming pools and the cheery faces and the gymnasiums, I thought, oh, that looks fun.
Yes, I mean, again, we've brought everything together, so you will be able to find information on gyms as well as, healthcare providers as well, because we feel that it's more of wellness is more of a continuum, and we want to kind of bring everything together in that one space.
I noticed there is a mention on your website of physiotherapists that are working more from home. Is that something that's generally happening?
Before lockdown 1, There were some physiotherapists who were providing virtual consultations, but certainly not very many. It's something that's far more common in places like Australia or Canada. But actually, during April, there were, I would say, almost 25% of the businesses within HealthHubble and the physiotherapists were actually offering virtual online consultations. And so, yes, I guess that is something that's come out of this year. There are an awful lot more people who are wanting to find help virtually, and then there are more and more healthcare providers who are able to provide that. And I imagine that will continue. I think that going forward, so many people recognise that there's a benefit of you being able to see a counsellor online. And if it works for you, it may not work for everybody. But if it works for you as an individual and you can actually get access to help without leaving your home, without getting in the car and driving miles and the stresses of parking, obviously the environmental aspect of that too, then absolutely, I'm sure this is going to become more and more common as we go into 2021.
But at the end of the day, the thing that counts is that you do the exercise, isn't it, Jacqueline?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. You know, there are some really important things that we need to do to just keep ourselves as fit and well as possible. And many of those things are actually relatively simple, like keeping fit and eating well, keeping hydrated, you know, taking plenty of time for your mental health as well. That's obviously a really big priority, definitely.
Tell us about your own healthcare routine.
So for me, I exercise regularly, and I do spend a lot of time out in the garden, and I actually factor that into my kind of self-care and my wellness routine, because it's really important to get outside and to get some fresh air. We're lucky enough to have quite a big garden with a veg patch, so we're always digging up, and so it's actually quite physical, and I really enjoy spending time out there, which also means that this summer we've been able to grow our own veg as well. That's a really big part of my self-care routine. And I've also got a big rose garden, and I spend a lot of time out looking after my roses. I spend some time kind of having just some mindfulness, really, and just a little bit of space out there as well. So all little things that I put into my regular routine.
And that must be so good as well as a parent, because setting your children a health example is important, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, they are absolutely fabulous in the garden. They're always outside. They're always doing lots of activity, mad into sport. And I think that, you know, as a household, we are very into kind of physical activity and keeping fit anyway. And so it's really good. They learn by example, really. So they love to see the things that you're doing, and they'll copy every single thing that you do. So, you know, if you've got great habits, then they just naturally grow up with those habits.
Tell us about the favourite parts of your work.
I guess I feel like I've spent my whole life learning, really. I've been to 3 different universities in total. When you qualify as a doctor, you're still learning, you're still doing lots and lots of exams. So it's become a really important kind of habit of mine. It's just a big way of my life. And so when I left the NHS to start my own business, I absolutely relish the opportunity to learn about so many new things about building a website and developing a company and marketing, and I absolutely love it. I guess that is one of my favourite things about my business, but also just developing ideas that you can really quickly implement when it's your company. Yeah, those are some of the best things, really. I mentioned earlier that we've got a sister company. They've been running for 17 years. So we know that, you know, really having launched only a few months ago, we are right at the beginning of our journey. And so continued growth and expansion is definitely one of our big priorities.
You must be very, very organised. Does that reflect in your hobbies and interests?
I think, I probably am probably a bit too organised sometimes. Everything's neatly organised and filed in my house. Definitely very, very organised in terms of my time, and, you know, working from home as well. You've got to kind of you've got to try and separate out your working environment and to keep that space almost a little bit protected, so that you're not in that space all the time, so you're not always working. But, you know, just also creating routines to kind of allow me to work around the children and school runs and their hobbies when we're not in lockdown, obviously.
Next year, are you optimistic that the coronavirus will have left us?
I am really optimistic that things will be much better than they are, definitely. The news about the 3 vaccines is absolutely fantastic, and you can really see a real change in how people are thinking, how the experts are thinking about what next year will be like once vaccination is rolled out. That really will be a huge change. There is good hope that towards the summer we can all start returning back to what we're used to, essentially. I mean, I'm not a coronavirus expert, and I think it's difficult to say that we won't be faced with coronavirus at all, but certainly I think we should see that things are improving and that we are gaining some of our what we class as our usual normal life, really. Social media is something that we really enjoy being able to share what we do, and we're really lucky as well to have so many experts from the health and wellness industry helping us, and they're writing articles. So we like to share those articles on Instagram and Twitter, also LinkedIn as well, and Facebook. And we really love to be able to connect with people as well on social media. So, and we understand that social media it's so important now, but it's also a really good way of connecting with people, especially since during lockdown it's obviously much harder to actually to meet people at various events. And so social media has become increasingly important. It's something that we really enjoy, and it's a great way to connect with people.
Can you just give us the address of your webpage, please?
Yes, healthhubble.com. So yeah, definitely go and have a look at healthhubble.com. I absolutely love Amy Winehouse. I was fortunate to meet her when she was in Bristol, and I guess her songs came out just as I'd left med school. And so one of my favourites is Rehab. Absolutely love Rehab. Another real favourite of mine is Leona Lewis's version of Run, originally sung by Snow Patrol, but I just absolutely love that song. It's just really beautiful, relaxing song, and holds a lot of memory. A favourite. Thinking back to my childhood, I grew up with a really eclectic mix of music, whether it's David Bowie or Motown, but also Queen, and Bohemian Rhapsody is a big favourite of mine. From last year, a lot of people have missed their holidays this year, and one song that kind of takes me back to last year's holiday with my family and my friends is George Ezra's Shotgun. Played the whole time through our 2-week holiday out in Greece, and so I absolutely love Shotgun. And from this year, I mean, music's been, it's a big thing. We obviously we spent a lot of time at home, and even in the school run, we're listening to music all the time with the girls, and so I'm listening to a lot of really contemporary pop music. Take the girls to school and find that I'm still singing along to lots of pop music on the way home. And so I really like Dua Lipa's Levitating, so that's a real favourite from this year. So those are my 5 favourite songs, I think, at the moment. Thank you very much, Roma. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, so thank you.